Hey, this is Friday, October 6th. We're going to get into the joy of what it's like to have emotions and feels. Spirit Week is coming up next week, where if you dress in different things each day, you get house points. If you do it all 5 days, I give you a prize. Mondays is going to be Twin Day. Make sure you vote on Instagram for which teacher is all pig kissable. Then make sure you read 2 stories for next Friday's test. The tie game was games. How very fitting. Then flowers for Algernon. My goal today, we're going to have 2 discussions when it comes to flowers. One today, where it's going to deal more with what actually happened in the story and your thoughts on there. And then next week, on Wednesday, we're going to have another discussion. But next week's discussion is what's going to be called a Socratic circle, and I'll describe more of how that one works. Today, my goal is to spread the conversation around as much as possible. Some of you are much more outgoing and talky-y than others, which is part of life. I was not the outgoing, talky-y person when I was younger. But, I know, shocker, I learned to do it as I got older. But my goal is to spread it around. The reason being is that for some of you, if you are a bit slower to talk, that's fine. But when you raise your hand, if you are that slower to talk person, I kind of bump you to the front of the line. So if you're that kid that doesn't talk as often, and you raise your hand, there's a good chance I'm going to call on you next. So it's not the same people talking all the time. Those of you who do like to talk all the time, I understand. We need kids who like to talk. But at the same time, I don't get to let you dominate everything. So don't take it personally when I then call on people in front of you. And I have a number of topics I want to get to. There's every chance. The very first thing I put up there, you guys could spend the next 50 minutes talking about it. But there's other things I want to get to. So I'm going to jump from one to the next. That's the joy of all of this. Next week, when we do the Socratic circle, it's different. And it's run a whole different way. And those of you who are not my outgoing, talky people, it gives you much more of a chance to interact. Because there's going to be a typey version of it. We're going to be on a website and we get to interact with each other. And so while we're talking out loud, you're also going to be talking on a website at the same time. It's pretty cool. And so that's going to be next week. Today, with our discussion, I'm not doing a debate. The difference between a discussion and a debate has winners and losers. A debate, you're trying to prove people wrong. On this, especially with this topic today, there is no right or wrong. This is just one of those, I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. I want to see you go deeper with it. So it's not a matter of, that kid's stupid, why do they feel that way? They may be stupid, but they're welcome to have their stupid opinions. That's what makes stupid people fun. But your goal is just to give your different opinion. With our quick discussions. So I have a couple things I want to get into overall with the story, and then I want to go back and look at certain scenes, because I went through my story and I was highlighting the things that I want to get to where all the feels came in, and so I'm going to talk about those with you, and then I have a few more bits to get to. Yesterday, some of the same questions, but now this involves the end of the story too. Your opinion of Charlie Gordon. From where we were yesterday to now, we've now gone full roller coaster, uppy, downy, flatty, dunny. And so, has your opinion of him changed or the same? Shreleka?
My opinion of Charlie Gordon has not changed, because last time I thought he was still excited to learn.
Mm-hmm.
This time he was just slowly dying, I guess you could say. So,
I mean, we're all slowly dying. That's how life works.
yeah, but he was like dying faster than us.
So not so slowly.
Yeah. So he was like really, he really.
Did
worked.
no part of your opinion of him change?
No.
Okay, just checking. See how strong you were on that one. RJ?
My opinion on Charlie Gordon has changed because after he was smart, there was this kid who dropped the plates, and then his whole understanding of what he was before changed, and he regarded people that were not very smart differently than before.
So how did that change your opinion of him?
He was like,
Not so much. We know Charlie changed. I want to know if your opinion of him changed.
not really.
Oh, that's strong. Harper?
Okay. Mine has so at the beginning of the story, he was a nice little sweet guy, and when he gets in the climax of the story, he turns into this kind of a little less nice guy, and then he goes, and then he turns into a really nice guy.
What part is he not the nice guy?
When he is fully educated and knows life.
Why does that make him not a nice guy?
It doesn't necessarily make him not a nice guy.
You just said he wasn't a nice
But
guy.
it made him not be as nice to other people
I don't get
because he was.
Shh, she gets to give her own
Because
opinion.
he doesn't understand, because he didn't understand that they were making fun of him before, but then he's like, well, you guys suck. Now he's getting more angry at them, and which makes him a less nice person.
So in your opinion, does he become less of a nice person?
He becomes less nice and then becomes nice again. So it's like, nice,
So are
not
you,
nice.
did you equate intelligence with not niceness? And dumbness with niceness?
No.
But isn't that kind of what you just said? You said dumb, so if we had a chart, dumb, nice, intelligent, not nice, dumb, nice.
When he gets intelligent, he gets not nice because he just realizes everybody's making fun of him and he's like, oh, well, that sucks for me. And so then he gets angry at everybody, which makes him not nice. But intelligence doesn't necessarily make somebody not nice.
It just happened to be a coincidence.
Just
Just trying to have a discussion. Gavin!
I think it has changed because he used to have like not as much common sense whenever he didn't, whenever like he wasn't noticing that they weren't really his friends. But then in the end of it, like he still like was feeling bad for people, like, and he was telling them to go put flowers on the grave and stuff. And so in the like, it kind of made you gain more respect for him in the end because he was caring about the other people.
So your opinion changed as you gained respect for him?
Yeah.
Because you didn't have as much respect for him at the beginning?
So
That's
I
just
think
trying to
basically.
translate what you... Yeah. It's just called, what I'm doing is called devil's advocate. It's just, I'm putting the question back on you because I hear what you're saying. And I'm making sure that you hear what you're saying. So you're saying that if you have more respect for him at the end, that means you had less respect for him at the beginning. That's the only way to get more is to have less. Okay, then that's fine.
Basically.
Let's see, since you brought up friends, now that we've gone through the whole story, what are your thoughts on his friends? D-dubs?
So my thoughts are like disappearing. Basically, his friends started out like really rude and condescending and like just no. And then towards the end they were like sympathetic for Charlie.
Okay. So, are they friends?
Yes, no.
Do you remember when I asked this question yesterday, what your response was?
but then change.
As usual.
I
And
think I said that they weren't his friends.
do you still agree with that?
Yes, no.
Good job, you're a great person not. Pick one or the other. Bianca!
So his friends really have changed. They've gone from patronizing jerks, it's true,
Uh-huh.
into friends who help out Charlie since they found out he was really smart and they're losing his smarts. They stood up for him.
So would you say at the end that they are friends?
Yes.
So would you commit to saying that they are, not de-dubbing it, but would you commit to saying that at the end they are his friends?
Yeah.
Ooh. By a quick show of hands then, let's do this. At the end of the story, Joe Carp and Frank, do you say, yes, I say they are actual real friends of his? Raise your hand, you say yes. Then raise your hand, you say, nope, I still think deep down those are not his friends. Alright. Just wanted to sort of see where you guys were on that one. Me here?
They just feel
Can I-
bad.
that's all
Yeah.
right? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in the beginning, I thought they weren't his friends because they gave him like drugs and would make fun of him. But towards the end, when they were nicely sympathetic to him, it was because they knew about the operation
He does tell him about the operation.
and what happened. So they stood up for him when that one guy was making fun of him.
The new guy on the floor, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's the same thing. Charlie changes and grows throughout the story, and I think the same thing happens with Frank and Joe. They do the same thing, that they change and grow. I think that at the beginning they weren't good friends, but I think at some point, I mean, are they the best of friends with him? No.
No.
Do they feel sorry for him? Probably. Are they protective of him? Yeah. But I think for Charlie, that might be the best you get with friendship sometimes.
Aw, I'm so sad.
Now this part. Is Charlie happy? What is the source of the same question I asked yesterday? Is Charlie happy? Riley?
Okay, so my answer doesn't really have to do with this, but I have something that I wanted to bring up that I was thinking about
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So, like, when he was getting, like, less smart,
Uh-huh.
I was noticing that, like, consciously he actually was, like, losing knowledge, but like, at the same time, he felt like he still remembered things. Like, he remembered things he wanted to remember, but yet he couldn't remember them.
What?
He had the ghost of knowledge. He
Yeah,
knew
it's
what the
like-
knowledge was, but couldn't remember the bits
He
that
knew
went
that
into
he
it.
wanted to remember the languages, but he couldn't. And so, like, I feel like even though the operation, like, made him smart and it also killed him, I feel like at the same time he didn't lose everything. I feel like, I mean, he lost most of his smart, but at the same time he still, like, he was able to put together that he got lost. He wasn't confused when he got lost. He was able to, like, put together that.
Which is the discussion we'll have coming up too, is the idea he gets wiser, I would say, as the
Yeah.
story goes along. And that's the difference between intelligence and wisdom. Can you be really intelligent and not wise? And can you be dumb, but also be wise? And it's that argument that goes back and forth.
We never answered that.
I know, it's only because I know I have these other things coming up I really want to get to.
Oh,
And so that's why I have to sort of jump around with some of these. We did that one, because I know the questions I have coming up, knowing you guys, you're really going to want to talk about the things I have coming up. Ooh, I will pause on this one for a moment.
Wait.
Was the surgery worth it? I think that's one we can probably get into. And this goes in your opinion. So we know what Charlie thinks, but this is from an outside observer. Hollyhock?
I think it was kind of worth it because he got to take a look into what he would be like if he were intelligent
Okay.
and if he wasn't dumb. And he realized some things that he wouldn't have realized before the operation.
So worth it in your opinion?
Yeah.
All right. Lily?
I would say it was not worth it because in the long run, he doesn't live as long as he could have lived.
But, and that's, just to give the counter argument to it, is it better to have the shorter life, which he feels has more meaning, or the longer life that he felt had less meaning? I mean, because he felt that the life being dumb didn't do as much. And so you're correct, he has a shorter life, but does having that long life make it worth it? And that's just the other part that are out there. Ava?
I think it was worth it because he got smart and that's what he wanted to do, and he was still eager to learn at the end. He just died.
He was also eager to learn at the beginning too. I mean, and then and he didn't die right away. We just know that that's inevitable and coming in feels. Zoe?
I don't think it was worth it because, like, by, like, the middle, when he started getting, like, really intelligent, then he started, like, losing a lot of his friends because none of them could, like, understand what he was saying. And so he lost a lot of social skills while that was happening. And he was so, like, eager to learn at the beginning, and I think he was, like, less eager at the end, and I just feel like it wasn't.
I think he got dumber. I think it's sort of how it went. If you started off here and then he shot straight up, I think at the end that final part seemed lower. Going off of like listening to his conversations versus the very beginning.
And he lost his house.
And he did, and that's because, I mean, part of it is he loses that motivation because he knows what he lost. And so is it better to have had it and lost it or to never have had it in the first place? Judy?
I kind of think that it's a yes/no kind of thing. Like,
D-Dubbin?
it's like, it seems like it was worth it because now his friends, like, are actually befriending him and, like, kind of being defensive about him, but at the same time, I don't think that it was really worth it because if we look back at, like, if he had never had the surgery, that, like, he would still be, like the place where he was, he wouldn't have, like, left, and possibly Algernon wouldn't have died.
True, too.
What?
I know.
No.
Trust
no,
me, I have to
no,
because
no,
there's so much.
no,
We're only on the tip of the hill.
No.
What I want to do now is there's a couple, because I still have a whole other big, trust, that's why we have 2 days of discussion to go along with it. There's parts of the thing I'm going to jump to that I'm going to read scenes from, and then I want to see your thoughts as we get to it. On May 20th, he talks about laughing at himself, which is, let's see, there, May 20th is way far down near the bottom of the page, when he has that whole scene where the kid drops all the dishes and breaks them, and he finds out that he's laughing at him and gets all upset. there's a scene where he says, let's see, I'd hidden the picture of the old Charlie Gordon from myself because now that I was intelligent, it was something that had to be pushed out of my mind. But today, in looking at that boy, for the first time, I saw what I had been. I was just like him. Only a short time ago, I learned that people laughed at me. Now, I can see that unknowingly, I joined with them in laughing at myself. That hurts most of all. And so it goes back to the idea of what hurts him is realizing that he laughed with those people who laughed at him. All those people who made fun of him, that's what's coming back. And that whole idea of the old lady who talks about the apple and the stuff like that, whoever she was at the end, who didn't sign the thing, Fanny. And she talks about the biting of the apple from the Bible and the idea of having this knowledge. He has this self-awareness, and that's what seems to cause him the most problems. The idea that it's not so much that he was dumb, as much as that he is aware that he laughed at himself, and the fact that he didn't know those things were going on. I agree. Sadness, understatement. Then I'm going to jump to May 25th. What do we find out was happening with Algernon? Just to make sure we hit on it. Olivia?
Oh, the guy being when he was invalidated, and like eventually his brain, I guess, got smaller.
And that's what happens. So apparently the idea being is that as the brain expands from the surgery, it eventually hits a point where it can't maintain it, and then like a star, it sort of collapses in upon itself. And so that's what happens with Algernon. And so since it happened with Algernon, what does Charlie figure out also? This is going to happen to him. So that's when he has the whole I'm racing against time. And realize from the very first thing, let's see, our first entry was March. And then his very last entry is going to be in July. And so that's all 4 months. From before the surgery to him leaving is over the course of 4 months. So it's not like it took very long for all of this stuff to happen to him. And so that's when he tries to do all of these great things. And then his hypothesis about growth and shrink when he gets to the July 5th, was that July 5th? June 5th. Let me see if I can read it. He says, it's at the bottom of that page. The hypothesis here proven may be described simply in the following terms. Artificially increased intelligence deteriorates at a rate of time directly proportional to the quantity of the increase. Meaning, the smarter you get, the faster it's going to disappear. Whereas like if you just went ahead and make your brain a little smarter, then it's going to take a lot longer for it to disappear. If you make yourself a lot smarter, then whatever peak it goes up, it peaks straight back down. And so he realizes since he shot straight up, it's going to come crashing back down. June 10th, the drawback to being self-aware. This is where the deterioration is progressing. I guess the same thing is or will soon be happening to me. Now that it's definite, I don't want it to happen. I put Algernon's body in a cheese box, buried him in the backyard. I cried. And so that's where we start getting to that feels where it's not so much that he's getting dumb that bothers him, it's that self-awareness and realizing what's happening to him. And I think it's the idea of knowing it's occurring that made it the most painful for us to watch him go through it. And then June 19th. Sometimes at night I go out for a walk. Last night I couldn't remember where I lived. A policeman took me home. I had the strange feeling that this all happened to me before, a long time ago. I keep telling myself I'm the only person in the world that can describe what's happening to me. Because when was the previous time? When he was drunk and was wandering around and stuff like that. But now it's to the point where he can't even remember all that. It's just that whole, when he talks about that amnesia bits, where when his brain is now shrinking back down, he's even losing those connections to the things and stuff like that. His biggest fear, now my mind is deteriorating rapidly. I won't let it happen. I'll fight it. I can't help thinking of the boy in the restaurant, the blank expression, the silly smile, the people laughing at him. No, please, not that again. His biggest fear, to put it into words, what is his biggest fear? His biggest fear is not death.
Being dumb again, getting laughed at, being laughed at.
Being crippled again.
How so? Both of these sort of combine those together. It's not just the self-awareness.
So he doesn't want to be laughed at again.
It's the
He knows
self-awareness of being dumb.
Unself-aware.
Yeah, and it's not just being laughed at that bothers him.
He just doesn't want to, because he knows that he's not going to know it's happening. And he
And-
doesn't want to be unselfish.
And so the idea, his biggest fear is that going back to being that person that when people laugh at him, he joins in with their laughter. And so that's his fear, is because once that happens, that's when he'll know he'll lose the last bit of being aware of everything. So once we get to that, that's the fear that haunts him. And then we get to the title of the story, Flowers for Algernon. And why is it called Flowers for Algernon?
Because he puts flowers on the mouse's grave.
And that's when he asked the lady that who he stays with to make sure she put the flowers on there. And then the scene with the doctor making fun of him, when the doctor comes to see him, and it says, the doctor smiled when I told him I used to be a genius. He talked to me like I was a baby, and he even winked at Mrs. Flynn. I got mad and chased him out because he was making fun of me the way they all used to. And so once again, still self-aware and still recognizing what's going on, so he's not lost it to that point yet, but that's going toward that great fear of his as he sees others giving him a hard time. Then when he returns to Donegan's, the plastic company, he gets his old job back, and this is where you guys already brought up the fact that his friends now act like friends toward him, and they get a little protective. And then we start getting to,
He moves.
he pulls the Charlie Gordon. And how does he pull the Charlie Gordon?
He goes to Miss Keenan's.
And this goes to Miss Kenion's class. And now that whole, his greatest fear starts to happen. Because he refers to himself as pulling a Charlie Gordon without realizing the fact that he's making fun of himself while doing it. Because it becomes that phrase. And so he's gone all the way back to that very beginning. And then the line that haunted me at the very end of it. And he says, goodbye, Miss Kenyon and Dr. Strauss and everybody. And please tell Dr. Niemer not to be such a grouch when people laugh at him and he would have more friends. It's easy to make friends if you let people laugh at you. I'm going to have lots of friends where I go. And he goes on from there. And so it's that whole hit you in the feels there at the very end. Which, yeah, it's a story full of feels. We've got, bad news is, we have more coming this year. Not all my stories are about horrible death. Sometimes they're about happy death.
No. Are they all about death?
Well, you'd rather have this than like a story where nothing happens. So you want a story that you get invested in, and when you first see the story and you find out like this story is 20 pages long, you're like, there's no way I'm going to read it. And then you start reading, you're like, there's no way I can stop reading it. That's the sign of that kind of story, and that's what I was aiming for with this one. So I agree, and the fact that he gets to that very end, but at the same time, I like his last line. It's easy to make friends if you let people laugh at you. There's two different ways to take that, though. There's the sad way of taking it, where realizing that he's regressing, and it is his way of making friends. But at the same time, in real life for everybody, that's a way to make friends. When you let people laugh at you and you laugh along with them, it makes things easier. The people who make those friends are the ones who don't get all uptight, who don't worry about what others think, who have that inner Charlie Gordon to them that when you laugh at me, I'll laugh along with you. It's okay. You can be self-aware and still take away that side of it. So that's why I still like that last part.
Sad.
I agree. Now, for more discussy bits, questions for you. I'll skip that one because we don't have enough time. Let's go to,
Intelligent quote.
if this surgery were to exist in its state today, where you could have this surgery and you would definitely have a period of time where you became exponentially smarter, but it was temporary, and at the end of it, you might be a little lower than where you were before. Would this be worth it? Would there be benefits to this existing and this being something we do?
What about the death portion?
D-Rook? I'll say avoid from the death part. Let's just say you start where you are, whatever level you are now, and then you shoot up high. Well, whatever height you shoot to, you come back down and you'll be a little bit lower, but the death part doesn't happen. Let's just say we can avoid the deathy bits. All right, D-Rook.
I say no because there are some things in life that you just can't know.
Okay.
Because if you know too much, you may just like figure out something that you really think that shouldn't have been figured out. And
So your assessment is knowledge is evil? What a good, strong sentiment to have in the classroom. Jack Johnson?
I think it could be worth it if, like, a scientist or somebody's trying to, like, find the answer to a really important thing,
Okay.
and they would be willing to donate themselves to do it.
Even knowing that they might be lower than they were at the end, you think it might be worth it to try and get to that high point as they went through it? Alright. Harper?
I say it is worth it because they're like at that intelligence peak, they could do something great or grand, and they could change the world forever. And then they'd get stupid, and then but you'd try to teach other people, and then you'd get stupid again, and then at least you know that you did something with your life instead of just sitting there and being stupid. And then
But they weren't stupid, they were a scientist, you said.
no. Okay, I want to do it. Okay, you would do that, and then say it's a normal person.
Okay.
You did it, and then you get intelligence, and you can make something great to make the world better. And then you become stupid again, but you would at least know that you did something great
Made a
with your
mark
life.
on the world.
Alright.
Brody?
Alright, I think that's a good idea, but only smart people should be allowed to do it.
Why?
Because, oh, hey, I'm super smart, I can solve all the world's problems. Oh no, I'm gonna be slightly less of a genius than I was before. Oh well, I'm still a genius. See, they can still do stuff. With people that are intelligent,
We call them normal people.
normal people,
Okay.
okay? With normal people, they would not be able to recover from the thing. So they'd be even stupider.
But wouldn't it have been nice for them to have been up there? Maybe they'll have a different way of looking at it.
Maybe, but mostly they're just going to be like breaking the world record for hot wings eating in an hour.
You have no faith.
Petty things
I
like
thought
that.
everything
No,
was
let's solve
snake.
cancer.
How about this? If we were able to get to the point where we could perfect this, and there was no regression at all, is this something that we would then, should we legalize it? Should it be something we would move forward with?
So you mean they
So the idea being is that once you peak, you stay up there.
Oh.
Is that something that you think would make the world a better place? Olivia?
No. You're gonna have to go with no, because then there'll just be a ton of smart people, and it's no one will really get recognition for what they do.
So a lot of smart people is bad.
Yes, if we can keep some.
So we need dummies.
Yes.
We need
So
dumb people.
your idea is that we should not make the world smarter because we need dumb people in the world.
Yes.
You seem very strong about that. Riley?
Okay, so if we make everyone too smart, then they'll figure out how to make yourself not die, and they won't have to do population control, and that won't be fun.
But if they're smart enough to figure out the not dying, wouldn't they also be smart enough to figure out the population control?
No, they'd be smart enough to figure out how to do population control, and they just give up after that, because population control.
Wow, you guys have no faith in humans whatsoever.
No, we're done.
Sierra?
I agree with what Olivia said, because if there's too much smart people, there won't be enough diversity in our culture. We don't really smart people.
But
Yeah. But like, maybe like the like people, we need to have a range of things, so then like if we wanted to do a different type of test on the brain that wasn't, because we need like people so then, like test brains almost, for like we need different types of people to have, to be able to be in that test that are dumb, that aren't smart.
So once again, we need dumb people.
Yes.
Interesting argument you guys keep bringing up. Should this be used just for dumb people then? If we said only dumb people, so that we can try to help raise up those dumb people that were down there.
With no regression.
If used for everyone. Let me skip that. Actually, I have a better idea.
No.
How about if they did this, but found out it only would work permanently if we did it in the womb before a kid was born? So the parents had to decide for their child. Should that be something that we allow?
No, it I have to
Yeah.
argument.
D-dubs.
So the kid could be born, like, I think that you're born smart, and then you have to achieve your way up there. But if you do this before birth, that could somehow mess up that smartness, and it could possibly make you, like, flip the order, or it could, maybe the kid wants to be average, or maybe the kid doesn't want to be known for his smartness or greatness. Maybe the kid just wants
Maybe
to
the
be
kid just wants to
there.
be
And if you did
Maybe
this
the kid
before
just wants to go to
birth,
Chuck E. Cheese. The kid
then I
can't be
feel like
us.
it would put too much pressure on the kid to be great.
Elizabeth?
good?
I don't think this should be legalized because if everyone is smart,
I have a
then
really
it
good one.
would be like a doctor
Mr. Brovicast,
or
can
all these other jobs.
I tell you mine?
This is why
They have